Quite the talent he is. Proper chatterbox yada. If you're keen, it'll be brilliant. Today, we're going to keep it simple. I'll bark out a basic command and you watch. Keen to know? He'll set your tail wagging. Does mine, hence why I'm backing him. Right then, Wookie here. Do take a seat, won't you? Give us your full attention while we listen to my pal, Yada.
My Wookie here. He's a cappuccino fiend. He's a scientist. He's an archaeologist. He's a maven of business, the big-time operator, the Wook. It's my pleasure to be endorsed by him. You know, the program's going to the dogs, but you know, when you think about it, the man named Dog, Koleb, which is also the Hebrew word for not only dog but means all heart. He was one of only two of the over 20 somethings that was allowed into the promised land. So God's got a thing for dogs, obviously, as well. We are returning to our series on basic series on Luminaries. The Luminaries are comprised of two individuals. It's the sixth volume of Coming Home is the one that is featuring their ascent throughout the prophecies of God. They are the two most often deployed individuals. They are referred to as a older and younger, greater and lesser Maor, and then the plural Maoreth. Luminaries. It's an interesting word, and that Maor is masculine, but it has a feminine plural, which is typically the way to say that they will be productive. God introduces them in the first chapter of Bereshith Genesis, saying that the two Maoreth will serve as signs for the Moedim, which means that they're the ones who are going to fulfill them. And we have already witnessed Dod's fulfillment of Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim in year 33 CE, 6,000 unfortunately, Christianity has robbed him of that distinction and robbed everyone, therefore, of salvation as a result of that. And now we are just, 3 days from the fulfillment of Shabuah. This Saturday will be the fulfillment of Shabuah. And, I guess it's the 22nd will be a Friday evening, won't it? It's a Friday correct. Evening, yes. Shabuah is a Shabbat, so it will continue through Saturday, but we're the beginning of the time of Israel's troubles and the fulfillment of the fourth of 7 Moedim is this Friday. It will occur at sunset, which I believe this time of year is 7:30 in Jerusalem. Therefore, in the east coast of the United States and here in the Caribbean Sea on Atlantic time, that's I think 12:30 in the afternoon is the time. So we will brace ourselves for the opening crescendo of the time of Israel's troubles here, just 3 days from now. We are hopeful that the Shabuah harvest of mature grain will take place on the following Shabuah, the 11th of June of 2027. While it would be lovely to check out of this world and to spend the next 3.5 years with Yahweh and Shamaim, there's so much time. Eternity is a very long time, last time I checked. For us to not only enjoy life on this earth in ideal conditions as Yahweh returns the planet to the state found in Eden, but having removed from the world all traces of religion and politics and conspiracy and anti-Semitism prior to doing so. So 1,000 years here on earth and then an infinite amount of time traveling through the universe with Yahweh. So another 3.5 years working to build the quality of the covenant family so there's more wonderful people to share this experience with, I think would be a good use of time now. In my relationship with Yahweh, well, it is a good one. It is a fun one. It is certainly a productive one, and it is a very long one, and it's mutually loyal. There aren't a lot of times where I'm giving Yahweh advice. In fact, when was the last time I gave Yahweh advice?
When he told you to.
I think never.
Never. Well, he
Yeah,
told
I think
you to
never.
take care of his people.
Yeah, I have. I've made some requests along the way in terms of what I'm supposed to be doing. I didn't want to have to rewrite Prophet of Doom, but now it became the 5 volumes of goddamn religion because, well, I made my plea and said, I don't want to have to go back into hell and rewrite that. I spent years of my life doing that, and to do it properly is going to be every bit of a year. And I've got so many other things that would be more fun to do, like finishing the multiple volumes of Coming Home and dealing with Dode's Mizmor. And when I position that to Yahweh, he says, I have taken care of you. Now you take care of my people. So I wouldn't say that was giving God advice. That was just me trying to say, I think there's more fun ways that we could spend the time we have remaining. I wasn't trying to even shirk responsibility. I'm happy to keep on working. But God says, no, this is what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it for the right reason. But no, I never give God advice. Never. I don't pray to him, and I never give him advice. I listen to him, and I do my best to understand what he has said, and I share what I have learned with all who will listen. And I go where his words lead. And if they say something that is important for us to know, I share that with you. I come into this particular program with a fairly heavy heart. It's something I've obviously known is going to happen for well over a year now, almost a year and a half. And I have dealt with it, and I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't change the fact that it is, it's a gulp. And as I said in my morning program, that we're now translating Yeshaya 30 as the closing chapter of Coming Home 4. And, it was talking about administrative duties and what's going to happen during the millennial celebration of the Shabbat and what things will be happening here on the earth and the shepherding that will be required. And then, I'm reading something talking about rivers cascading off. It sounds like mountains, although it was Har, which would be the mount. And it used terms that is usually translated lofty, but it really means the exalted, most important of all mounts, which would be Mount Moriah and the surrounding hills. And it was talking about divisive waters cascading off of this. And I said, well, that's kind of an interesting thought. And then you next read, well, this is going to occur on the day of the great slaughter of the most vicious and violent of all murders. And I go, oh, well, that's me. And so, you realize that the job comes with some serious responsibility. And one of them is you've got to be willing to lay down your life to purge the mortal remnant of Yisrael. Now, it's not human sacrifice. The part that makes me human is my nefesh soul, and I'm not sacrificing it. I'm just getting rid of what will be a very old and tired body by that time, and be glad to part with it. But it's the body that will be beaten in this way, and it will happen on Teruah in 2033. This is how, as the Katan Mayor, I will be fulfilling after Shavuot, which is upcoming, Teruah. And then thereafter, my wife and I, we accompany Dode, our beloved son and God's firstborn son, the Messiah and returning King, our Savior. We accompany him as he returns from Shamaim. And we have made the arrangements so that the reception and family homecoming will be grand. There'll also be a wedding on that day. And then we will work together collaboratively through that 1,000 years with the mortal remnant that has been spared during the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah as we return to the garden, giving humankind another opportunity to get their relationship right with God. And so we, Dode and I, Greater and Lesser Luminaries, have a long history together. It goes back every bit of 6,000 years and maybe even beyond that. And that is what we are considering as we ponder the story of the Mayorth. And where we were in our last statement, we're considering the book of Yoel. It's powerful and primarily in its teaching. Well, the prophecies are, of course, interesting, and they dovetail with what we have read in Yeshaya, Isaiah 13. It's an amazing tome when you consider the amount of teaching that is included in it. And so we learn that during this time, the threshing floor is like the top of Mount Moriah, where the temple once stood and where the ugly boils to Islamic viciousness now stand, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, which will be destroyed here in a number of years. I think less than 4 years from now, they'll be gone. But that's a threshing floor. When I bought it, it was a threshing floor. And there are many of them in Israel. And we're told that the threshing floors will be filled. They will be proclaimed satisfactory. The job will be finished, at least that phase of it at this time. And that is because a threshing floor is the place where the valuable grain kernel is winnowed or separated from the chaff, which is useless, and the chaff blows away in the wind. And so God is telling us that our collaboration prevails. We are successful. The threshing floors are filled. Our mission purpose is fulfilled. The result is satisfactory to God. We will have done what he wants most of all, remain loyal and steadfast, and then as a result, finished what we came to achieve. And so the threshing floors there are filled with pure grain, the most desirable, the brightest, the most radiant of children of the most brilliant sun. That's a lot to get from a single word, and the word is bar. It is Be'eth Rosh in the Hebrew alphabet. The Be'eth means family and home. It's the first letter in Ben, son. And it is also the first letter in Bereth, covenant, family. The Rosh is a person's head. It is designed to convey the idea of being a person who listens, who's observant, and who processes information in their brain prior to speaking. So it is a particularly attuned and observant individual. So this would be an individual who is observant and attuned to the family and to the son. The primary Hebrew word for son is ben. This is bar. And when bar is used, as it was brilliantly in the 31st mashal or word picture about the restoration of Dode's waywardness, resolving it with Yahweh, is to restore that relationship. It speaks of more than son. It is pure grain, symbol of saved souls. The bar are bright. They're desirable. They speak of radiant children. So this is what the threshing floor is going to be. The threshing floor is going to be filled with beautiful sons and daughters of God, bright, radiant children, the most desirable of all. But that's not the only metaphor that God likes to use to speak of a successful harvest, is it? He says also that the vats, these presses, they will be more than sufficient too. They will be adequately filled. some to overflowing. It's shuk. They will reach the intended and proper level, which in the old design was around the height of the upper thigh, which is ideal for promoting healthy growth. So the presses and the vats, they will be sufficient, adequately filled. Now, if you are listening to this and you say, well, that's the best you've got for God endorsing the work that you're going to do is it's adequate and sufficient, and you say, don't you get an attaboy, or, hey, that was great. Best you got is adequate and sufficient. You've been doing this for 6,000 years. You're going to give up your life on Teruah on behalf of the remnant of Israel. And you've written 35 books as part of the Yada Yawa library. Here's a great example of it. 825 pages. Translating all of the references to the last days so that you might know what's going to happen, particularly during the harvest of Shabu through Teruah. Here now, the Time of Trouble, companion volume, also 825 pages, translating everything that will transpire, sharing future history with you so that you can read tomorrow's newspaper today. And so for somebody that's done that, 1,000 vlogs here, live streams of what we have learned, 35 books on the shelf, all free at yadayad.com, 10,000 or more radio programs and interviews for years. And the best you can get is a satisfactory, sufficient, adequate, darn right. What we want. God's not really into superlatives. He doesn't want to tempt us with superlatives. That's what Christians do, what Muslims do. No, he's not into superlatives. One of the many terms that he uses to describe himself is to say, Shiloh, I'm adequate. I meet the need. You turn to me and you respond to me. You rely on me, and I'll give you what you need. I'm sufficient. I'm adequate. Sufficient and adequate is a really good thing. God's been dealing with humanity for 6,000 years with a Nesama, and over that 6,000 years, there's been maybe a score, maybe twice that. And now today, at the precipice of the Shabuah harvest, maybe 4 times the score of men and women that he would view as sufficient and adequate so that they can be filled to an overflowing degree with his spirit and be elevated beyond the 3 dimensions we find ourselves. So yeah, I'd be thrilled. I mean, what God is saying is that the threshing floors are satisfactory. The wine vat is adequate. You think of it from this perspective. To say mankind has had a troubled relationship with God that we know of for 6,000 years. He began to tell us the difficulties that took place in the garden and why we failed to measure up, and how we cascaded into oblivion immediately thereafter when one man who had the potential to be good or bad became many who were just strictly bad. God even regretted having created us. And then you go through time, and what you find is there is occasionally a brief moment of sanity, but for the most part, particularly with the children of Israel, they're obnoxious. And very few people that measure up to what God is looking for. He's not looking for perfection, not looking for greatness, looking for people who are willing to listen, consider what God has to say, respond, and stay the course. Being adequate. In all that time, let's say that including the current harvest amongst tens of billions of people, there may be 10 score. So yeah, I think it's just fine being adequate. Not many people have achieved it. And I think God is saying this to also to calibrate our expectations. When he says the threshing floors will be filled and fulfilled with pure grain, with desirable children, bright and radiant. He doesn't want us to think in the mindset of the religious, where you have a religion like Christianity of 2.5 billion people, and a pope can go in his pope mobile and have millions of people lining the streets and applauding him, and of Muslims there's 2 billion of them, and they think they rule the world because there's so many of them. God doesn't want to have us set our expectations on popularity. So terms like satisfactory and adequate are really important when quantifying those who will be on that threshing floor, of those who will be in that vat. All you need to be is satisfactory too. So the presses and the vats, they will be sufficient. They're adequately filled, some even to overflowing, with the new wine of a fresh inheritance, sweeter and only briefly fermented, along with glistening, freshly and lightly pressed olive oil. Oh, there's the third, isn't it? Grain, symbolic of the Shavuot harvest. Olive oil, significant in that it's emblematic of Teruah. And in between, we have wine, because blood, dam, is the core of Adam and Adamah in Hebrew. And it is what these men who are the luminaries will shed on behalf of humanity. And so these are the three things that God recognizes. One of the things they have in common is they're exceedingly useful for humanity. But in all cases, the fruit, grain, berry, must be crushed before it is useful. Such is the nature of grain becoming bread. Such are grapes in their transition to wine. And of course, it is the same with the press and the olive for it to become oil. The Gorneth is an ideal metaphor to reveal that this is a time of harvesting, bringing in the crop that is valued from a considerable labor, sowing seeds, cultivating them, pulling out the weeds of hearsay, and gathering them in to the winning floor. And then winnowing is separating that final valuable crop from that which is worthless. The chaff is being permanently separated from the most valuable grain, symbolic of redeemed souls. And this is why Yahweh's home was built above what was, in Dod's day, a threshing floor. The symbolism permeates everything God has to say. So from this perspective, to render bar as grain and just leave it there and nothing more would be to miss the point of God's message. Because bar means sun, in addition to brilliant and radiant light. It speaks of those who are chosen and favored, even desirable, because of their integrity and desire to understand. The bar become heirs to a special family. Also reassuring in the last word picture, if I have mentioned, Dod's mother lectures her son 3 times about the importance of recognizing his place as the most favored and brilliant bar, the firstborn of Yahweh. Now, there is a subtle but essential message that is presented by both verbs. Male reveals that the winnowing taking place on the threshing floor at this time will be proclaimed acceptable and complete, even finished, having satisfied the fulfillment of its purpose. This means that Elia and Yada, working alongside the most mature and productive members of the covenant family while serving with Yahweh, will have collectively met God's stated expectations. Now, whether deemed satisfactory in quality or in quantity, there will be a sufficient and satisfactory assemblage of purified souls as part of this mortal remnant of Israel to celebrate the sun's arrival on Kippurim. And at this time, we're not talking about tremendous quality or quantity. Both have an opportunity to manifest over the next 1,000 years. But with the mortal remnant, they are neither quality nor quantity. With the two harvests, the day before on Teruah, which is the olive harvest, and the wheat harvest on Shabuah, they are quality. Again, not quantity. So, therefore, this is no time to rest. We can be assured that the 3 days of Chag Sukkah, Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah, will be fulfilled consistent with their intent. And we're going to see that job through. That is our mission. This realization is reinforced by Suk, which affirms that the contents of the wine and the oil vats on this day will also be deemed as more than sufficient. They will be adequately filled, with some even overflowing. They will shuk, reach the intended and proper level, which is around the height of the upper thigh, and is shuk, ideal for promoting healthy growth. I was in translating Yeshaya 30. There's a lot of metaphorical terms that are used by Elia, not Elia, but Yeshaya. And some only appear in his text, some only once, one's twice. And so you're dealing with words that, okay, it's a bit of a challenge to render. You got to scratch your head and say, well, okay, I'm going to find the meaning of this, because I'm not going to just jump on board with the religious definition. I have to find out why I chose this word. And one of the things that is interesting is that the people who are part of the covenant family as they return to earth, and of the remnant of mortal remnant of Israel, I'm going to be responsible for dispersing them, spreading them out, scattering them. The entire globe will be available. This idea they're all going to congregate for the 1,000 years in Jerusalem just isn't true. They're not. And now, if they were in Israel, the concentration of people wouldn't be all that dense, because there'll be, 700 mortal remnants of Israel and 700 mortal remnants of the Goyim, plus the covenant family, based upon the reference to the gold that has been refined from Orifor. Should that be taken literally, or should we take God's statement etched in stone in the second instruction, where he says there will be thousands who receive his mercy by being observant of the terms and conditions of his covenant relationship? Millions on billions would be more like 8,000, or if we're dealing with Jews at that time, it's back to about the 700 that we're dealing with. So this is the opportunity we're talking about. And what God has recognized, and he recognized it a good 6,000 years before I shared it with you, although I think I'm the remedy for it. And I think I'm the first person to state it this way. That when Adam was in Eden with Yahweh, and he was given a Nesama, he had the potential to be good or bad. And throughout his 6 lives, Dode was at times very good, and at other times very bad. But it was always there. He could be either. When there are many of us, we are always bad. There are no exceptions. Religiously, we're bad. Nationally, we're bad. As militaries, we're bad. As large corporations, we're bad. Mankind goes from the potential of being good or bad to always being bad when we go from few to many. And so God's idea is, let's not run into that problem again. The earth is reasonably sized for the mortal remnant that is left. Let's spread them out. They don't need to be on top of each other. You know, God has said that neighbor is not going to teach neighbor anymore. So we're not going to go into a classroom where you have a neighborhood teacher. God said that the means of education during this time and maximizing a person's potential is yada yada. It's a website. It can be streamed anywhere in the world. We will continue to produce the Yahweh blog. We will continue to write books and add them to the library. There's already 25,000 pages there. There'll be 37 volumes here in a matter of days. And we'll just continue over that time, adding to them, improving them, both the vlog and the books, and creating an environment for communication and for sharing. And so this is where we're headed. This is what God is asking. And to do that, we don't have to be living on top of each other. We can spread out, which gives us a much better opportunity to be good. And God is interested in us being shuk, promoting healthy growth. The message of the harvested grain is that the kernel has to be separated from the chaff. The grapes and olives that have been gleaned will be pressed to become wine and oil. This is the story of how the ingatherings of Shavuot and Teruah and the great purging on the day of the herald, which lead to the sun's arrival in Kippurim and the people's return to Gan Eden on Sukkah, will transpire. And we are now gathered around and focused upon the threshing floor prior to the time that Yahweh's son, Dod, returns. And of course, he is quite well acquainted with the summit of Mount Moriah. The brilliant sun made it possible for the covenant family to be winnowed and purified, then brought home into the house of God by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim in 33 CE. So this is the story of Yisrael's homecoming. It's the people's restoration at long last. And it will be celebrated because it follows 3,500 years of estrangement. And it is during Chag Sukkah that the covenant is restored and it's renewed. The Choder as the Nakar, this final Zoroah, now represented as the man from Edom in the wine vat with Yashayah, will be saving many. And he is serving as the Adamah Parah, Adamah, bloody red man of the earth, Parah, as a productive bull. The previously unharvested olives, representing the mortal remnant being shaken from the tree so that they can be gathered in by God and taken into his home, are ready to be purged of their religiosity so that they can anticipate the return of Father and Son. And on this moment, Yahweh says, I will fulfill, so as to complete the process of reconciliation and restoration by offering compensation. Wa shalom. I will fulfill my promises and I will honor my vows to make amends, completing what is required to reestablish this relationship, providing the means to restitution for you, for the years that so quickly disappeared as meaningless as a result of those using ruinous trickery, artifice, and deceit. They devoured them as by a cankerworm with the larva of nymphs destructively licking and lapping up, along with the destroyer, the one who consumes in the end, even the ravenous swarms from Gaza. My vociferous voice, my valiant and capable one, the enriching and empowering one, brought into this time of travail, Ha-Gadol, the great, the old, and the important one, who, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, I will have sent and will dispatch to be with you and to be among you. This is Yoel 2:25. Yeah, I don't think there's many people that were aware of how effective Yoel is at teaching. It's not just, here's the prophecy of the wars, and he does speak of them, and he speaks of them in a way that is visual and easy for us to process. We know that the Mujahideen are going to come mostly from Iran. We know how many of them there are going to be, how they're going to enter Israel, and what they're going to do once they get there. But telling us that bad news isn't really the purpose of the prophecy. It's to share the kind of information such that those who are listening aren't victimized. So it's important to know that God himself says, that he's going to fulfill and complete this process of reconciliation and restoration. And he's going to do so by having offered compensation. It was Dowd that paid that price. He fulfilled Passover by being crucified. He took our guilt into hell for a heavenly cause. That was the compensation. And it is for us. Now, for Israel, this is what you just don't get. You give lip service to a Hashem because you erased God's name. It's an unforgivable crime, by the way. You changed your name from Yahud to Jew, writing God's name out of yours. You replaced his Torah with a Talmud and then called the Talmud Torah. You replaced his Shaphat judges and his Cohen of the Lowy with God-forsaken rabbis, money grubbers, scum. You replaced the relationship he intended with a horribly oppressive religion. And then you define yourself under that religion as opposed to a people unto God. And as a result, you have turned 3,500 years of recalcitrance and belligerence into time that simply disappeared. Meaningless, ruinous, a time of artifice and deceit. It's sad, isn't it? But that's what you have done. You devoured what God offered, like a cankerworm, like a destroyer that consumes everything in the end, like swarms from Gaza. They were destructive, weren't they? Well, God is equating you to those swarms from Gaza. So he says, my vociferous force, my valiant and capable one, the enriching and empowering one, brought into this time of travail. Ha-Gadol, the great, the old, the important one. Now, when we talk about the two Maorith, the luminaries, God says one is Gadol and one is Katan. But he also tells us that both are Gadol. And so even the Khatan Mayor that is brought into this time to serve Israel in this way, according to Yahweh, is Gadol. And he is Gadol on behalf of the Gadol. And so Dod doesn't return until the earth is restored. All the enemies are gone. His people have been purged. They're waiting for him. His bride is dressed and ready for the wedding. The earth has been restored to the conditions of Eden. All belligerents, religious, political, conspiratorial, anti-Semitic, are gone. They've all been incinerated. And so at this point, the Gadol can return, but God may be speaking of the Khatan Mayor here, fulfilling their role, as he says they are both Gadol, to get her done, as he is dispatched among you. He says, then you will be exceedingly well nourished and overwhelmingly satisfied. Shabbat. As I read the 30th chapter of Yashaya, that is part of the agenda. Tending to the flocks, tending to the fields, tending to the orchards and vineyards, preparing nutritious food for the people is part of the agenda. People will be satisfied. Fortunately, they will have a hunger for the word of God, just as they could have a hunger for other things. I'm just looking. Do we have a new logo up there on the right as opposed to the twirling one? There's kind of a black square up there. Is that something that is being broadcast?
No, it's not.
Okay, so it is our normal spinning logo that is up there, not what I'm seeing on my screen. You don't have to. I mean, you can peek around. You can even see a Rich shadow there. Look at there's our Rich coming. Hey there, Rich. How are you? Oh, there you go. So it was just something that was blocking my screen. I was going to say, I'm not so sure I like the black menorah. Wookie is saying, yeah, come on. I should have been on top of that. But here I am. I'm paying attention now, Rich. I'm looking here. You know, I'm not sure he knows that's him, but he is looking at himself in the in the camera. All right. So now that we have the great menorah caper result, that menorah means a lot to me. It was a wonderful discussion about a year and a half ago that I had with Yahweh when I asked him how he wanted me to proceed from here. And he proceeded to give me a number of instructions. And one of them was to create that modern menorah and to move away from the face of the lion that we had used as our logo up to this point. He says, that's not even the Lion of Judah. And it's we're not talking about the Lion of Judah. Everybody is working under the sign that I chose. The sign that I chose is the 7 candle, 7 light menorah. And that's what I want. And so from his description of a modern manifestation of that menorah, and perfect for this program, that's the luminary of God. And it is 7 because there are 3 spring and 3 fall Moedim with Shabu in the middle. And so it signifies what the luminaries are supposed to be doing. And it's the sign of our God. It has the, when presented correctly, will actually convey the colors of the rainbow, which is a sign of the covenant. It's a very, very important image for God. And as you can see, all the way through, we have incorporated it into the, I get around the Wookiee here, but the books that we have done, the corner of the show, it's all the same. Okay, Wookiee, we know that's you, buddy, that's you. You're doing a good job. That's you, not to worry about it. Okay, there, calm down. I think that's a rival that's trying to take his position on the show. and he's not too pleased with it. So it says, you will be exceedingly well nourished and overwhelmingly satisfied. The nourishment isn't just food. It is symbolic of feeding our souls what we need to grow and come closer to our God. It says, you will radiate a clear and brilliant light while extolling the name of Yahweh. What we have done, I think more so than anyone else, but I know so, more than anyone else in human history, is to reintroduce Yahweh's name. And therefore, yada.com is the home for Yahweh's name. It has been our primary mission over the years, is to radiate Yahweh's light and to extol God's marvelous name. It was in these books that Yahweh's name was first conveyed as it should be properly pronounced. And I didn't just take a guess at it. I spent weeks analyzing every word in the Hebrew lexicon with a yod, a he, and a waw, and how they were produced, how they were pronounced. Analyzed the verb that Yahweh said was the basis of his name, Haya, the book that he revealed his name. The most common word spoken by Jews throughout the ages, or Yehudim, which is shalom. And when you consider all those things, there's no doubt that it's Yahweh. And then I considered the names of prophets like Yoel. How do you think you get Yoel? Yahweh's God. It's not difficult, but I systematically, after analyzing it all, I wrote an entire chapter of an introduction to God, proving, using the entirety of the Hebrew lexicon, that Yod He Wah He is Yahweh. And it was the first time that God's name not only had been spoken, but demonstrated and proven that it was correctly restored. It's something very, very important to our God. So you will radiate a clear and brilliant light. This is halal. Extolling the name, the Shem of Yahweh, your God, who for the benefit of the relationship has acted and engaged marvelously and miraculously with you. After years of wasted time of Hashems and Adonais and erasing Yahweh's name, the central ingredient that separates that wasted and antagonistic time of 3.5 millennia from this marvelous and miraculous restoration and re-engaging with God is knowing and using Yahweh's name. Simple, powerful, instructive, prophetic. It is Yahweh. And so, my people, this family of mine, they will not be humiliated or disrespected forevermore. Wallow Bosh. For those that are still religious among us, or corrupters of the word of God, and there are many, who are convinced that the Christians are right and that God is looking for mushmelons, that he just loves the humble, the meek. Well, every time that God speaks of being humiliated and humble, it's a negative. He says, my people, after they're gloriously restored, will never be humbled again. God wants us to be Shazak, fierce, strong, powerful, Gabor, bold, unrelenting, brave, and courageous, men and women of character. He is not looking for meek. And if you think he is, then you do not know him. That was Yoel 2:26. Now, even while enduring the most mankind has to offer during the time of trouble. Israel can be assured that Yahweh will honor his promise, he always does, and that they will be restored. And in this regard, Shalem speaks as much about fulfilling these promises as it does about completing the process of reconciliation and restoration. The covenant relationship will be reestablished. God's plan will come to fruition. We will bear fruit as a result of our collaboration. Of course, this is bittersweet in a way because of all of the years that were squandered. Really, from the time of Abraham and Sarah. Abraham was often classless, pimped out Sarah on 2 occasions for more livestock. His son Yishak never said or did anything that would distinguish him, and finally blessed the younger of the 2 boys. And you look at Jacob, I don't think he had much of a backbone. I don't think he had much character. Not that you can tell anyway. Made so many mistakes in his life. Loved the wrong woman. That's pretty typical of Israel, isn't it? And while he became the father of the 12 tribes, he was a lousy father. They started off life horribly. They were bad. Just nothing good is said about them initially, and so much is said that is hideously bad. And so it doesn't get any better. And even when Moshe tried to save them from tyranny in Mitzrayim, they turned on Moshe. And when God finally liberated them from slavery, they turned on Moshe and Yahweh. And the entire 40 years of the Exodus is just one stupid, belligerent, antagonistic taunt after another to God. Carrying the Torah around like it's this glorious thing that glorifies Jews and speaks well of Judaism is, insane. It's out of touch with reality. I mean, the whole story demeans Jews. Well, you can't demean them because they were demeaning. It speaks honestly of them, and they were obnoxious and embittered and rebellious, recalcitrant, ornery, stubborn, pig-headed. It's just one event after another. It's so bad, Moshe said to God, I want you to kill me. I can't deal with them. God burned up everything around them because he couldn't deal with them. They actually told God early on to go away and shut up. They never wanted to hear from him or see him again. So don't be parading around and kissing your Torah as if it speaks gloriously of you. It condemns you. It is bittersweet. So many years have been squandered, wasted by Jewish religious behavior, and today by Judaism. They literally disappeared from God. God retreated from them. And it is so to this time. That the religious have used all manner of trickery and deceit to devour the lives and the souls of their brethren. There is no greater enemy to the Jewish people than Judaism. That is the hidden history of rabbis. It should be apparent that Yahweh sees the religious as no better than cankerworms. That's an ugly thing, isn't it? And it is because their larva is a great destroyer. And ultimately, Rahab, the incarnation of Satan, who happens to be Donald Trump, is only welcomed in one land, the land that he betrays, Israel. Israel would rather receive and praise Donald Trump, the corporeal manifestation of Satan, then they would receive and speak Yahweh's name. God has said that the Jews have treated him just like they were treated when ravenous swarms of militants came out of Gaza. He's seen your future. He witnessed your past. It's sad. And still, you don't return. So it is into this travail that Yahweh dispatches his exceptionally outspoken and tremendously capable one, someone God considers influential and bold, a force to be reckoned with in the time of trouble. And while Yada is the subject of this prophetic promise, I would have differentiated him from Ha Gadol, the great, older, and important one, had there been so much as a wah, an and between these thoughts, but there wasn't. And so we are reminded that there was a reason for Yahweh specifically stating that both Maor, luminaries, were and would continue to be Gadol. It is indeed Yada who is deployed during the time of trouble and not Dod. And it is to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, to pave the way to Dod's return, to finally get the attention of Yisrael, to stop the belligerents, to knock the Hashem out of them. Now, this known, God has dispatched and will redeploy both men on behalf of his people. They have a long history of being extended to keep the plan on schedule. They work beautifully together. And they are family. And as a result of their persistent collaboration with Yahweh at the conclusion of the time of trouble, and having benefited from the events of Teruah and Kippurim, God's people are prepared to be exceedingly well-nourished, especially on their return to the garden, which, by the way, will not be vegetarian anymore. There'll be herds of cattle, of goats, and of sheep. So the fruit of the tree of lives and of knowledge will be overwhelmingly satisfying and fulfilling, meeting every need, as will be the herds that are being provided for the people's nourishment. Now, those who accept what they're offering, they're going to reflect their illumination as they extol the name of our God. And it will be at this time that Yahweh will re-engage, performing marvelously and miraculously through his chosen implements on behalf of his people. This is the greatest show on earth that is transpiring on the first day of Chag Sukkah on Teruah, 23rd and 24th of September of 2033. So thereupon, with the religious, political, militant, and conspiratorial hosts all vanished, Jews will now be Yehudim, the beloved of Yah. And they will never be humbled or despised again. The intent of Sukkah is for God, of course, to be able to camp out, at least an avatarial form, with Yisrael. And while there have been many notable individuals along the way who have made this day possible, the two most deployed will now be standing alongside Abraham and Sarah, Yishak and Rivkah, Jacob and Leah, with the likes of Moshe, Yosha, Caleb, and Samuel, Nathan and Yoel, Yeshaya, Yirmiah, Zechariah, Hosea, and Malachi. And of course, our beloved and always entertaining Eliah. Even the 8 most prominent leaders of the covenant family from the Shabuah harvest, they will be there too. These are God's people. And we are all in service to the remaining remnant. We're going to make certain that our return to the garden is productive this time, that there are many who are satisfactory and will enter forevermore. I'll share one more statement with you and we'll conclude this program. We've reached, I think, right at the hour mark. It says, and you will know. Why yada? You will actually recognize and acknowledge, even understand at that moment that I am in the midst, exceedingly close and near Yisrael, those who are mine, by engaging and enduring with me as God. This was Yisrael Ane. It's something that we don't see very often. This is my Yisrael. With God saying that, these are his people. These are those who are engaging and enduring with God. And he says, I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh, your God. There is no other. My family will never be disapproved or experience distress, nor will they be frustrated, mistaken, wronged, maligned, nor humbled ever again throughout all time. Yuel, Yahweh's God, Joel 2:27. They have survived the time of trouble. And having returned to Yahweh and Jerusalem, they're now purged of their guilt, courtesy of the Adam of Perah. They're reconciled in their relationship. Sukkah can commence. And Yahweh, just as he is foretold through Yirmiah at this very moment, he's going to see to it that we all yada Yahweh. And whether projecting himself as a fiery light in our midst or through his firstborn Dode as Elion, all things pertaining to the influence of God, our Father's presence will be near and felt by all who remain. Of course, the covenant family will have seen him and spent considerable time in his presence in the seventh dimension. And we will share what we have learned. And the others will see God through his fiery light, through his beloved Son, through his words. And God will occasionally project himself through an avatar, his soul placed in a being so that he can dine with us, camp out with us in that way. So we arrive at this juncture following the Shavua Katzir and, of course, the Teruah Lakat, following the sacrifice of the Adam of Perah, having enjoyed the Kippurim homecoming. So Yahweh is reaffirming the renewal of his Bereth, his covenant with Yisrael. This is the very day he addressed, of course, in the glorious 31st chapter of the prophet Yirmiah, when he talked about the restoration of his covenant. The divorce pronounced through Hosea, it's over. Yisrael will be wed to Dode, the returning king, regaining royal status. After millennia of estrangement, Yahweh will re-engage as foretold through Yeshaya, Yirmiah, and now Yoel. This is the beginning of happily ever after. The key to the restoration of Yisrael, to individuals now who are known to engage and endure with God, and to Yahweh returning and living in the midst of his people, is the recognition of the pronouncement of his name. And while there is more, this would be a very good place for you to start no matter who you are or where you may be in this world. He is Yahweh. He is God. There is no other. I am Yahweh, and I am God. So why was my name outlawed? Hashem is an ugly facade. Why remain so flawed with this nastiest of frauds? I offered you kinship, a loving relationship, a partnership, a special fellowship, and your retort was religious lip. My story is of grain, of olives and wine. Why do you decline? Or worse, wine. You could be mine, and before this deadline, read the sign. Be fine, and by design. Do you not know my mayor? Even though he's been here many times before. It's your religious guilt he bore, and yet you wrongly adore a whore. Yahweh's my name, to Israel I came. You denied my acclaim, you fled my flame. You erased my name. I told you everything you needed to glow. Revelations to help you grow. My son sowed the seeds, don't you know? And yet you denied him was a crushing blow. Your Messiah, he returns. He's been here before. Your guilt he bore. He opened the door. Of this and more, I swore. It's all foretold in his Mizmor. Dode is my son. He is my chosen one. Your salvation he won. It's already done. A Savior as bright as the sun, all from my anointed one. So do not run. He served as the Passover lamb, yet you don't seem to give a damn. He fulfilled the promise made to Abraham. It's posted on that door jamb. Yahweh's my name, to Israel I came. You denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. I've always loved you. I wish you knew. But you haven't a clue. Such nonsense you spew. So the harvest, it will be few. The truth was not hidden. It's religion that's forbidden. And now that you are so war-ridden, it's time to look at what is written. I spoke of my Gadol, the first chapter of my Torah scroll. Sharing his purpose was the goal, all conveyed to save your soul. It's time to harpoon, even lampoon and impugn. What do you think of the sun and the moon? Knowing not why they're essential to this tune, there is no return to the covenant that you were strewn. So Yahweh is my name, was to Israel I came, but you denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. When I was your God and Dode was your king, there was a different song to sing. To the Goyim you did not cling. You were shielded from their sting. Isolated and hated, you were battered. Your dreams are shattered. The nation is tattered. my words have not mattered. It's all there in the Mikre. There is no reason to have gone astray. They are the way. Join me on Shabua, I say. I conveyed the signs of the Moedim, from whose brilliance you could beam. And yet, all agleam with your own scheme. You have chosen a wholly different team. And yet Yahweh remains my name. It was to Israel that I came. But you denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. With Dod as your Messiah, as foretold in Isaiah, you were not a pariah. Have you read Jeremiah? Dod is his name. To Israel he came. You denied his acclaim. You robbed him of his flame. What a shame. Who served as the lamb? Whose blood is on that door jamb? Do you need a diagram? Do you even give a damn? Do you know the Son who was given for what he has striven? How are you to be forgiven? What is your decision? Dod is his name. To Israel he came. You denied his acclaim. You robbed him of his flame and fame. Have you no shame? This need not be the end of the story. You have all been called to glory. To my covenant be a signatory. Respond to this allegory. If you wish to be repleven, let's remove your leaven. It's on the basis of 7 that I can bring you to heaven. So, this is the story of my luminaries, even as they have become your adversaries, when they serve as my great emissaries, and with whom I have compiled esteemed libraries. Yahweh is my name. To Yisrael I came. Accept my acclaim. Embrace my flame. Reinstate my name.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yao on our next podcast.